one of the best we've ever done because we're in the midst of so much cool shit right now. So we not only have everything going on with the NFL and the playoffs, but we've been friends a long time, going back and forth on social media. We've been talking a lot about different things, and there's just so much I want to cram into this. But I want to dive right in because you have an amazing story, bro. When you look back and you look at your story, your career, and this is something not enough people talk about, and I talked about this with Heath Evans. You've been cut, you've been let go, you've been waived, you've been through it all. How was it going through that journey when you were coming up and being able to finally make a roster and make a name for yourself?
Well, it sucked. The process of being cut is pretty shitty, but I would say that the hardening of that process
Right.
to more resilient to some of the shit that you have to deal with just in life in general, right? So, I like to think that early in my career, it was more of an injury that kind of had me cut and sidelined than actual like physically bad play football, like bad football. Going back to college, I had to go the JUCO route, which was not easy. That was kind of because of the fact I wasn't the biggest kid. I wasn't, 240 out of high school. I had to gain some weight. I had to put on some pounds and look the part as a D1 athlete, D1 defensive end. So I went to Joliet Junior College, driving back and forth to school every day, practicing on a shitty field, with my high school cleats and my high school pants. And then it just came down to figuring out, if I can outwork everybody and I'm the first one in, last one out, maybe I could just literally run circles around people and turn some heads. And, my sophomore year at JUCO, I was able to, lead the junior college ranks with sacks. I had 16. And even going to Purdue, I wasn't recruited. I basically had to call and really force the issue to be recruited by Purdue. They were recruiting actually one of my teammates, and I was like, why the hell are they not recruiting me? I'm better than this kid. So I just started calling the head coach, Joe Tiller. He's not with us anymore, but I called him a bunch. I left him a ton of messages. He got fed up and said, hey, kid, just send me a tape and we'll talk. And sent him a tape, and then they didn't even offer me as a defensive end, though. I guess because I was white. They were like, oh, you can only play tight end. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Well, if I come here as a tight end, you just please let me play defensive end for one day, and then we'll make a decision. Went to camp, played one day at D end, and never moved, never
Right.
switched. So, and a lot of the other teams recruiting me out of junior college were telling me all the reasons. I remember IU came to my house with a projection screen of the underclassmen that were starters at Purdue. They had Ray Edwards, who was a true freshman, starting already. They had Anthony Spencer, who was a redshirt sophomore, a starter. And they were like, look, if you go here, you're not going to play. And I remember distinctly telling myself, I'm going there. I don't care. Just because I love a challenge, and I just love people telling me one thing, and I do whatever the hell I think I can do. And, sometimes that gets me in trouble. Ask my wife. But, I think that was, a part of me being hard-headed made me who I was. And then I went to Purdue, ended up starting, got a call to go to the combine. And, then I went to New Orleans. I was drafted to New Orleans, made the roster as a third DN. Going through the draft process, my mom had asked me, what's the one team you don't want to play for? And I said, New Orleans. I don't want to go to the Saints. That was right after Katrina, so they really didn't have a city or a team. They were all dismantled and messed up because of Katrina. And the roster didn't fit me. They had big 300-pound DNs. I didn't fit the scheme. But as fate would have it, they called me and they drafted me with the 135th pick. And I went in there at 260. I made the team as a third DN. I was a third down pass rush guy. I played about 30 snaps a game. And then they had the big opening the dome Monday Night Football game against the Falcons, and had a bad knee injury. Just running down a kickoff, planted my foot, got hit at the same time, and I tore, my ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus. I did the whole shebang. So, I think that experience kind of actually humbled me a little bit, but then gave me a perspective that from that point forward, I, took that perspective and made the best of every moment that I had. And from that injury, it took me a few years to even get on a roster. I was with the Saints that year, got hurt, went on IR. The next year came back, hurt my other knee, but it wasn't a crazy ACL or anything, but it was just enough for them to cut me because of the fact I was a 5th round pick and they didn't have any money invested in me. They cut me actually on an away game, the first game of the season. They cut me on the road, which was very unusual and pissed me off. But they cut me. I got claimed by Miami. I went to Miami in that lovely 0-15.
Yeah.
They went 1-15 that year. They were 0-10.
They were hideous.
Terrible. So I didn't even play on that team. So it was challenging, Then I had another 08 year. Bill Parcells came in and wanted me to move to inside linebacker, which I had never played before. So you take somebody with instincts as a D end and you put them at an inside linebacker. It's almost like you're handcuffing them. So 08, I moved to inside linebacker. And then at that point, I hadn't played a snap of meaningful football on a field defensively in 3 years. So I knew my time was kind of up at that point. Once I was cut there, I had an opportunity to go back to the Saints in 2009 for the offseason. I thought I had an actual shot, but when I signed there, they had in the NFL, there's some politics involved. And
no,
if you pay somebody to paint your house, guess what? They're not going to let another guy come do it once they pay for the guy. So, they had a bunch of highly paid guys on defense. I wasn't going to go take their job. So when I got there, Sean Payton said, look, you're not going to make this team as a defensive football player. We're going to move you to long snapper. And I was looking at him like, what? Is this guy serious? So I was a long snapper for a full off season, just snapping footballs, not playing any defense, no OTAs, no mini camp, no individual, just a long snapper. So fast forward to the first day of training camp, 2009, I report. I go into the cafeteria. They got the Turk there to meet me and say, hey, Sean wants to see you. And I knew instantly, like, this dude's going to cut me. I had some words in my head that it wasn't so nice. But went in his office, looked at him, said, you didn't know this, that you were going to do this like 2 weeks ago because you could have helped. Like, at this point, other teams are already in camp. And, it's hard to get on a roster when they have a big roster. And usually the guys on the 90-man for training camp are guys that they want, So I kind of thought like I was screwed and left. Went down to Bourbon Street, had a great time. The next day I was like, screw it, I'm going to go play golf. In the second hole, the Patriots called me. It was Bill, and he said, look, we got a spot available to you. You make the best of it. We'll see. I mean, there's no guarantees here. Come in, do a workout. And I was basically just a camp body. And that was, I knew it was an opportunity. And all the things that you hear about New England, you hear, look, if you can help the team, if you have any type of talent, I knew, hey, if I go in there and I play the way I know I can play, if I'm aggressive and I get after people and I get to the quarterback, I'll have a chance. And from that day forward, I've reported to camp, and I was able to make the team as a special teamer, running down on kickoff and punt team, and doing everything I had to do in the special team ranks. And then slowly but surely, I had a role, and when I was playing, man, it was developing into something that at the time I thought I always wanted to be a starter and a big time role player and a big time impact player. But I just needed an opportunity, and just like life, look, opportunities, they're open and closed all the time. You can run through a door and it's open and you get through it and it's all right place, right time. And I talk to people in the business world and the most successful people that I know and I've talked to, it's all about timing, and you hit it right. And sometimes you fail, sometimes you don't, hit it at the right time and it doesn't go the where you expect it. But if you have the mental fortitude and you fight through and you believe in yourself. I knew I could play. I knew I was a good football player, um, and I knew I could play at a really high level. Then I started. Then the rest is history. Having all the big plays and all the Super Bowls and just everything that came with it was definitely hard work. A lot of tears because there wasn't. I'm not going to say I was never a freaking crier because look, I'd be in an extended stay, questioning on where the hell I was going to go with my life if I wasn't playing football. And it's emotional when you put everything into it and you're not getting anything out of it. It starts to take its toll on you.
Yeah. No
and then
doubt.
injuries, when you have injuries on top of it that are kind of like, man, can I catch a break here? It's tough. So to be able to do all that and win 2 Super Bowls and play for the Patriots and help my family out because I was raised in a family. My dad's an iron worker, my mom's a teacher. As a man, you're supposed to provide for your family. So I just try to do the best for my family and hope that my children, have a better life for it. And, I don't even, whatever happens to me, I don't care as long as my kids are good. That's all I care about.
I always say, Rob, like we weren't raised poor, but we were raised poor, but we didn't know we were poor kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like you always had something when you needed it. It wasn't like, it was tough, but you grow up in Chicago, outside Chicago, right? You're in Illinois and you kind of obviously are born with that grinding work ethic. So you didn't have an easy road. And I feel whether I'm watching you on ESPN or anywhere, one of the most unsung things about you is people don't talk about, all they see is the Super Bowl. They don't talk about that 3 or 4 year stretch, like you're saying, where you questioned everything, right? And you're going through that spell. At what point, I have to ask, where and when were you? At what point did you feel like, all right, I can like buy a decent house now? I made it. Like at what point were you like, I'm good?
Well, I didn't buy a house until 2014 after we won Seattle. So that was like my 8th year. Look, when you're in the NFL and you have had the things happen to you that I had during the early parts of my career, I didn't trust anybody. In the NFL, you really can't trust anybody because they're trying to move on and they're trying to get different people in, and they're always looking for the next guy. I never really put my guard down, and I think that helps people really excel and maximize their potential. And I think back on early in my career when I moved to New England, I had a Rubbermaid. I used to just pack a big Rubbermaid bin, put my clothes in it, and if wherever I went, I'd ship my truck. I'd put the clothes in it. My first few years there, I rented furniture, just rented an apartment.
That's awesome.
I didn't do it. I never was comfortable. And then when I, after 14, I signed a 3-year deal. I was like, okay, look, I'm going to be here a while. And I was able to save and put enough money away to where I was comfortable being able to support my family and doing the things that I want to do. And, that's what it's all about. I mean, when I think back on it, I don't regret anything. I played my heart out. I decided to walk away from the game after my 11th season because at a certain point, that whole underdog thing, it gets old. People are like, oh, he's a hard worker. I'm like, yeah, well, I beat a lot of great tackles and I'm faster. I did my 5.10.5 was a 4.1 flat. I was faster than I was like me and Manny Lawson 1-2. Like I was the fastest guy, quickest guy, 3-cone. Like, look, all this shit isn't just hard work. Like I'm an athlete, So over the years, you start to just be like, yo, I'm good. And when you play a long time like I did, I didn't see the benefit of playing 12 to 13 to 14 years than just getting out after a Super Bowl. And I didn't want to be kicked out and I didn't want to be injured and have to leave. So I figured, look, if I can go out my way on my terms and explain my way is better than their way, and then it's the way I need to go. So after we won and came back with Atlanta versus Atlanta, I looked at everything where I was at. I think my next season I was making like 1.5, which I know that sounds like a lot of money, but for starting DN in the NFL, that's not a lot. I was like, look, my risk and reward is not there. So if I'm going to go out here and risk my long-term health and my brain and all these things that go into it, maybe blow my knee out, maybe tear my Achilles, I don't know. I'm not putting myself out there. And I was 100% ready to move on and move to the next chapter, which was, doing the media stuff. I didn't know I was going to do all this stuff, but I think this is very true with athletes. People remember you for the last time they saw you. And if you're struggling and you look old and you look slow, people remember that.
Well
I felt
said.
that I was still a very productive player. And I still think that's why people think, hey, Ninko, come back. Hey, Ninko, we need you. It's like, dude, I'm 35. I haven't played in like 3 years. But if I would have stuck and people would have been like, dude, Ninko looks so slow. He's old. Replace him. Nobody would ask me. They'd be like, Ninko, it's time. It's time. So I felt like it was a perfect time to get out. I mean, there's very few players that can say their last game was a Super Bowl championship.
No, that's true. And there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I have to ask, what made you choose the broadcasting? Because I'm sure you had an amount of opportunities too to potentially maybe coach or get into the organizations a little bit. What made you choose the broadcasting route?
I'd have to just go with time with my family. I talked about the family earlier. That had a big impact on my decision to retire. I have 3 kids. Look, if you burn it from both ends, it doesn't last very long. So for me, I just felt the best situation for myself would be to move on and do something else. And then, there's always a little bit of an itch to get into, I don't know, coaching would definitely be potentially something that I'd like to do. But at the same time, having a 5-month-old and a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, there's not, as a football coach, you don't have as much time as you would like, with your family, and you have to sacrifice and do a lot of different things time-wise that I wasn't willing to commit to at this point. So I figured, look, the next best thing would be getting into, the media side of things and doing ESPN and talking about football. You're still involved, but you still have time with the family and the kids.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice at the end of the day. I think that's the better route, especially where you got young ones running around. You got your hands full in that house. So, it's kind of serendipitous. You segue into that. Now, throughout your career, I'd be crazy not to ask, how influential was, Tom and Bill and just the influence that they had on you both as a person and as a player?
No, big. I mean, huge, massive. I mean, I owe Bill, a lot of the credit for bringing me in and helping me in my career. And Tom is one of the best competitors, one of the best teammates that I've ever been privileged to play with. I mean, the guy is tremendous in everything, his work ethic, the way he presents himself. He's an awesome person. And look, I learned a lot. I mean, Bill helped me a lot on the football field, understanding defense and how to play, and Tom helped me on how to be a pro and how to approach the game with your mentality. So all the success and all the things that the Patriots have, there's no magic pill. There's nothing that you can take that's going to help you get to where they're at. It's good old fashioned hard work, and literally putting in the time. I've seen Tom after a big blowout game away. We're flying back home, and everybody else is playing cards and enjoying their time. Tom's looking at the computer on the next week's opponent. He's already dove in, getting ready for next week. And that's Tom. Like that's the way he prepares. He isn't gonna be the guy that's not prepared. So, I respected him as a football player. I respect him as a person. I honor and I love his friendship. So it's been a really big blessing for me to meet Bill and be a part of Bill's career. And sometimes every now and then during the season, I'll shoot him a text. And, first 300th win, I said, hey, coach, congrats. It's an amazing thing to accomplish. And, his text back to me was, you were a big part of a lot of those wins. So thank you, so which is pretty crazy that, Bill Belichick thanking me to help him get those wins. It was pretty cool. So, I really, really enjoyed my time in New England. I definitely miss it. I'm not going to say I don't miss playing the game, because as a football player, that's what I did for the majority of my life. But I knew it was time to move on. And now you can't look back. So there's a lot of guys that they have a hard time moving on. For me, I just said to myself, look, you can't look back. That's the only way to succeed in life is to continue looking forward. Yeah, and you can't have regrets. So I just try to live my life that way, to the best that I can. And, hopefully by the end of it, I'll have a full life, and I'll have loved every decision and thing that I've done.
Oh, I have no doubts that you will. I think you're
My
gonna.
father would say, patting when they're patting your face with the shovel, which I seem it's very ominous and
Yeah, it's
disturbing.
morbid. Yeah.
It's very morbid, yeah. But he says it like every time we talk about it. He talks too much about getting patted in the face with a shovel, but the way he is, old school.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think you're going to crush anything you get your hands into. I've always loved how you carried yourself. You have so much to look forward to because you got out, like you said, at the right time when stuff was still happening in front of you. And there's a lot to be said about that. I think some guys do stay too long. There's so many guys. Do you worry at all about maybe Tom falling into that trap of staying too long? And how does it play out for him, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a concern. Once you hit a certain age, football is a violent sport. You're getting hit you're getting hit as a linebacker. I'm DN. I'm getting hit every play. Tom, he might hit the ground, I don't know, 5 to 10 times a game. But at 42, you never know. You go to run, or you plan, or you throw the ball a certain way. Things can happen. So you always worry about injury. That's part of the game. Unfortunate part of the game that we all as football players have to deal with. But looking at his future, I think you watch some of the throws that he makes. He still has a lot of zip on the ball. He's not looking like Peyton Manning in his last year, where he had the ball as a duck,
Right.
and he doesn't have velocity. Like, he can still throw the football. He's still smart. He understands. He's still the smartest guy on the field.
Oh yeah.
So my thing is, what else does he have to do what else does Tom need to accomplish that will make him satisfied with his career? I think only Tom has those answers, but I would assume, based on the fact that he's still playing, is he wants to get that 7th ring. He's still hunting to be the leader of the pack, so to speak, of quarterbacks and championships and the player with the most. So I think he's still hungry. He says it every year. Like, I still love the game. I still want to play. I still have a passion for it.
It's crazy, Rob, because isn't there no doubt that he's there, right? It's no doubt that he's there. So it's kind of crazy, at the same time, he's, selfishly, being from New England, we all want to see him stay a little longer, right? Like, you all want to see him hang on and do 2 or 3 more years at least. I think they have to get somebody in the draft, and they're going to have to develop him. And I think for him, it plays out something like a 3-year deal somewhere in there, and not a year-to-year thing. And I think they just have to get help on the outside. I mean, he had no weapons in the playoffs. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you just can't, no offense to anybody. I mean, I'm not a pro, but you can't be relying on Ben Watson, and Jules Jules was banged up all through. So he needs help. I mean, there's no doubt.
I mean, Julian's a beast now, but he's 33 years old. I didn't play at 33. My last year I was 32 years old. Yeah, granted, could I have played 2 more years? Probably, but he'll be 34 as a slot. He's taken a lot of hits. He gets banged up. If you don't have another piece, if the biggest thing that affected the Patriots this season was teams could load up and double Julian, beat him up at the line of scrimmage. He still finished as your top leading receiver, but if you had another piece, if you had another tight end, or you had a big time receiver that had to have more attention, you look at the Texans right now. They have Hopkins and Fuller. When Fuller and Hopkins are on the field together, their offensive passing production is double what it is when he's not on the field. So if you look at that, of course, you got one big time receiver he's on the field, all our attention goes to him. So they got two guys on the field that we cannot just single out one guy. Well, it opens it up for both guys. So that's going to be the biggest thing moving forward. Obviously, Tom coming back is going to be huge. So they got to get Tom back. But as far as pieces offensively, if I'm the personnel people, I'm Bill. I'm telling Tom, look, this year, let's go. We're loading it up. We'll come back. I don't know how many more bites of the apple I got. I don't know how many more bites you got. But while we have any bites, let's go get some guys.
Who do you think the logical choices are? You know, you have a slew of wide receivers and tight ends being free. Kittle, you know, being the most notable in 2021. A lot of these guys, as you know, that are in like 1-year deals and are becoming free agents this year. I think Kittle's a big name out there. I think Kenny Stills is another one. I think in 2021, you know, who are some of the logical choices maybe that can fit or can come in and can add help immediately?
Well, that's a good question because you got to look at the cap. You know, I don't think you can go. It looks like Kittle will probably get
Big money.
max.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to get big money, which that'd be tough. When you give somebody like that all that money, it only takes a high ankle to take all that investment off the field. So ideally, you'd like to find somebody in the draft that you can help develop, but next year, like they need somebody now. So you maybe a trade. You look at maybe OBJ. I know Odell Beckham. Everyone has a lot of things to say about him, but look, I can tell you one thing: if you work for Bill and you work with Tom, you're all about. You're going to all be about winning. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So they would be able to help his attitude, so to speak, because Bill doesn't put up with anything, and Tom doesn't put up with anything. And if you're working with Tom, every single thing you're doing is all business. There's no messing around. There's no coming off the field saying anything to either of those guys. So that's known very quickly, and I think that you could probably get, I mean, one of the most explosive, dynamic receivers if you traded for him and got him on the team, because you already tell the guy went and got a pair of shoes just for Tom. He wants to play with Tom.
Right.
He wants to. I mean, if you're a big time receiver, you want to play with Tom Brady. Like, why wouldn't you? You want to get out of the situation you're in if you don't have a quarterback that you have trust or you believe in. You don't want to be involved in that. You want to be able to go to a place that's a big time offense with a big time quarterback where you know every single week you're the go-to guy and you can have career years. I mean, that's what you want. You want to be the Randy Moss when you got traded here in 07 and just completely blew up the whole league.
Yeah, there's no doubt. That's why I liked the Kenny Stills, because he's got 1 year left on his deal, goes up in 2021. It could be one of those guys, you know, similar to the Moss year where you bring him in, and I thought he'd be another guy that would be a really good fit for whatever reason, just in my own selfishness, just looking. But I just seem to like what he was bringing to the table. And, you know, I'm trying to look at guys that would be a huge value and put a lot on the table. I mean, Kittle's going to get big money. There's no doubt about it. But they also have, you know, two tight ends there that, you know, are going to ask for max dollars. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and what they do. I have no doubts Tom will stay in New England. And I think you don't either. I think that's a foregone conclusion. There's too many ties there business wise, and you know the depths of it, and you don't have to get into it. There's just too many ties on a professional and personal side that I think, and they just don't have anybody else really to slide into right now, and it's not the logical choice. So I think it's a foregone conclusion. Wouldn't you agree?
No, yeah, I agree with you on that. You look at that, and if you were to factor in he goes somewhere else, I mean, that would be a big deal, and you got to start over. You got to have a completely new system in place with new receivers, a new location, everything. And at 43, something happens, or you go 6-10. I mean, what are people instantly going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, that was, you know, Bill was the reason," you know, all that stuff. So, you know, I think for both parties, both sides, it's best that they stick together. You know, Tom still wants to play. Now it's up to the Patriots to, you know, they're known to maybe lowball and not give the most or be competitive with the rest of the
Of
league.
course.
But they're going to have to, because you can't insult Tom, all the things that he's done. And at the end of the day, it's about money, right? It's a big business. I mean, how much money has Tom made the Patriots? It's in the B's, not in the M's.
Right, absolutely, and I think they'll work it out. But you're absolutely right. Every owner, and it's not just that, every owner is going to attempt to offer what they feel is the best for their own scenario and for their own sake and for business. But I think they're going to work something out. I think it's going to look something like a 2 to 3 year deal, like maybe 2 with an option or something along those lines. And I think they're going to, as you said, go out of their way. I think you got to look at receivers and tight ends with deals coming up in 2020 and deals coming up in 2021, because that's been Bill's MO, to get a guy maybe with 1 year left on the deal and bring him in for, maybe I think he's got a first and a third that he can play with. So he's got that to play around with. And then even in the following year, mess around with the first, second, and third, and bring somebody in that's proven and that can add something, whether it's a Kenny Stills or a T.Y. Hilton, or if you go after Kittle and you give him max pay. I mean, there's going to be one of those tight ends is going to come out of San Francisco for sure, because they're not going to be able to keep both. There's no doubt about that. So you're going to have to figure that out. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I got to ask you this, being a Purdue guy, how much of a snub was it to not see Drew Brees in the top 100?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big deal. I mean, Drew Brees look, the guy's number one in touchdowns. The records that he has been able to break has been unbelievable. His career has been amazing. So yeah, I think that he's kind of got the short end of the stick on that one. Maybe if he was in a bigger market, maybe. I know New Orleans isn't the biggest market, and the exposure is a lot smaller there. Yeah, he's the 8-8 playoff record. People say a lot of stuff about that. But I definitely think he's top 100 for just the records alone.
Yeah, I mean, that was to me a little bit of a snubbing. I had to ask you, given the tie-in with Purdue and Nola, but that's definitely something I looked at and I was like, what? When someone told me Drew Brees wasn't in that top selection of quarterbacks, I was like, you got to be crazy. In the top 10, I'm like, there's no way. It's I mean, they put Sammy Barr in there, and no disrespect to anybody, and Otto Graham and Dan Marino. I mean, I could have swapped any one of those out for Drew Brees, even Brett Favre.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
I mean, maybe not go so far as to say Elway, but at least one of those three. I thought it was a little bit of a snubbing. I was like, that's pretty crazy, but it is what it is. And they put these lists together, and they're always fun to debate, and you can debate them till the cows come home. But we always know they don't always get it right. Right. I mean, what was it? ESPN out of the top 100 left Bo Jackson out of it originally. I mean, it's just some of the craziest things come out of these lists sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's you look at some of the guys on that list, like they probably wouldn't even be able to play in the NFL the way, like a modern athlete is a completely different athlete than years ago.
Yeah, it's night and day. I mean, you look at, I always use Mike Webster as the example. I think he was a 250-pound center, when he played.
Yep.
He was a very undersized center, but I mean, you can't take away how great he was. But yeah, I mean, it's hard when you compare eras like that. It was nice to see Gronk in there, even though he only had that 8-year stretch, because I've said it for a long time. I'm like, you could put Gronk's numbers up against anybody. I mean, he was just such a dominant force, and I think he made the right decision by leaving when he did.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Rob's taken a lot of damage, and when you're taking surgeries and you're taking those hits and you're feeling the way that he feels, it's not a good thing. So, I think that he realized for his future health and longevity, it would probably be best that he didn't take those hits and didn't have any more big injuries, because, and it wears on you. I think you saw that, we all saw the interview with him almost crying about it, because you love the game. You love it so much. You never want it to end, but it takes its toll on you. And look, I mean, I don't know what my future has in store, but I'm sure playing football for as long as I did didn't help or won't help, my longevity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you made absolutely the right choice. I don't think there's any doubt about that, especially being able to transition and still kind of have your hands in things. Now,
Yep.
I have to jump to another thing. You're so pro, the country, you're so patriotic. You grew up in Illinois. Now, tell
Yep.
me how that happens, because Illinois is like, the total ground zero for left wing, not, I want to say anti-America, but how is it you go from that to being, pro stand for the flag, pro United States? How does that all happen? What is it? What burns it?
Very. So you understand at a very young age that you respect everything that the flag represents, and you respect all the men and women that served and fought for our freedoms and all the things that I wouldn't have. We wouldn't have anything that we have right now if it wasn't for all those men and women, those brave souls. And I'm kind of a historian. I love watching like documentaries and World War II stuff, and just the way that the country came together back then was so spectacular. And I wonder now if they'd have the same type of reaction, the way that they were, that the world, that America came together. If we'd be able to do it now, I just don't know, because of the fact that we have a lot of people that have the views that they have. It's kind of sad to think about that. But look, when the whole thing was going down with the anthem, like, you stand, you respect, you do not, show disrespect for all the people out there that paid the ultimate price for giving us the ability to have professional sports. It's just, you don't do that. So I'd say it all goes back to my family growing up. My dad, if my dad saw me not do the right thing and stand, I'd probably.
Talking to other guys, it's unfortunate. I'm glad, what do you say? Because I still talk to obviously a lot of guys in the federal agencies, local agencies, and they still won't watch the NFL. And they have a bad taste in their mouth from that. What type of encouragement, or what can you say to those guys, trying to come out of it a little bit and understand that the NFL's moved on from that? I think the Kaepernick thing recently helped with a little bit of that.
Look, the NFL at the time, there is some following, big followers that they don't even know what the heck they're doing. They're just doing it because they're following the next guy next to them. I think that once they figured, or the NFL obviously felt that whole issue, they felt the ramifications of that, which they didn't support. They didn't want that. They want every single player to show respect, which every player should show respect for the flag, and now everyone's standing, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's the way it should have been. It's unfortunate that whole situation went down. It's unfortunate that there's still people that won't watch the games. But I will say that there's a lot of men that play in the NFL that have a lot of respect, and for anyone who served for our country, and moving forward, that should not be an issue again.
Right. No, and it's well said. I mean, I think everybody's moved on from it, and I think that it still leaves a little bit of a wrinkle, but I think at the same time a lot's been said, and I think that whole Kaepernick thing recently was a farce, and I think people saw through that, and I think that's going to aid in everybody just kind of moving on. Like, okay, enough is enough now. We gave you a chance, and you made a mockery of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole thing's a circus, but it is what it is. If the guy wanted to play football, go to the CFL or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities, and
There's plenty of opportunities. There's the XFL coming up. if the NFL wanted to give you a workout, which nobody has, whatever he just got. I mean, I just think that whole thing, it's ridiculous. So he wasn't a great quarterback, okay? So like just leave it at that. Like his last year, he wasn't anything near he was his first year as a starter. So there's a lot of things that go into that. If you're not watching as much tape or you're not, preparing the way you should prepare, you're not going to be a great football player. So, I just think that his time has come and it's gone.
Yeah, his like the allure, I guess, is the word. It's crazy because the era. I think there's a shift going on right now, and I think we saw it last night. I don't get it. I don't know. I'm sure you saw the clip, but I don't know if you had a chance to see the Golden Globes. Ricky Gervais came out and said, can it with the political stuff, can it, and just come up and get your award and thank your agent. Do you feel like there's a shift going on right now, Rob?
I think that was hilarious.
It was awesome.
When he said, look, you guys don't know what a normal, like, when's the last time anybody in that room was welding and 25-degree weather, sitting on an I-beam, like it's just there. Just leave all that shit alone. You're actresses and actors. It was funny. I laughed. It was great. That guy's got some coconuts. He's not afraid to say what he wants. And, I think that whole situation with people wanting to speak out and, I don't want to get political, but
no, but just the platform,
the platform stuff. It's like, all right, we get it. Like, just go read your lines.
Yeah. And I think it's a testament though to where we're at. It's, people have to move on and turn the page from things, regardless of your political standing. The election happened. It's over. It's done with. There's all these different things. People just have to move on, right? Like people just have to turn the page. And I think that's the theme of what you've done in your career and just in general in the climate to which we're in right now. It's people have to turn the page and move on and get to business as usual, because, coming out and continuing to badger and belittle and berate isn't going to get us anywhere, and it's not going to help. And that's why I thought Ricky's comments were so great.
Look, nothing that I have ever done was given to me. Every single thing that I have, I worked my ass off for it, and I paid the price. So I don't think anyone should get anything for free. If you want to have success, go work.
Right.
Go work for it. Go set goals. Go do something. That's my biggest thing. If you want change, you want to be a CEO, you want to be a big business owner, you want to do it. Go, but just don't complain about where you're at, and don't bitch about life. Because if you're sitting on your couch playing video games and you want to check, like, that ain't gonna work,
Right.
That's not how we move. That's not how we move in the right direction as a society. This country was based on people working their asses off, and if you work your ass off, good things happen to people that work hard. So, my whole family, they're all hardworking people, and nothing was ever given. So that's the way I look at my life. I wasn't handed anything. And people, they might even say, oh, you're a football player. The guy's living a life. I'm like, yeah, I played football, and I earned everything through working my butt off, blood, sweat, and tears. And I wouldn't want to be taxed any more than I am already.
Right. Exactly.
To give it away for somebody that's not doing anything. Here, sit back, buddy. I just picked up my son.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Little Everett.
How old is he now?
3. So he's 3. Just picked him up from preschool.
Oh, beautiful. So I want to ask, because you've always been a part of whether it's Matt Life's foundation, different things. You've always loved the sport of shooting. How important is it to you to bring those core values and be a part of that, even with your young ones as they grow up? How was that kind of brought into your life? Was it your dad with his military background? Where does that come from?
Honestly, I didn't grow up shooting. I just, when I got in the NFL, me and Matt had a good relationship, and, go to the range and, met a lot of military buddies, a lot of great guys in the service, who I'd jump in with them and we do some fun stuff. And, then the handgun stuff just became kind of a fun hobby. And Matt Light, the Light Foundation, does some great stuff, and I joined his board. So they do a Matt Light celebrity shootout every single year where they do skeet shooting, kind of like a golf outing, raising money, but yet it's like skeet, which is very fun for teams, and you're going around different obstacles, and they do a lot of great things. They raise over $1 million every year, so it's pretty cool. And then they have SIG come out, and they have Smith and Wesson. They have all these different gun companies come out. We do handgun stuff and do a celebrity shootout where you go up against all your other celebrities and you shoot and you try and shoot plates and win. And I'm a couple time champion, so I have a few handguns to show for it. So it's definitely a cool thing. I'm a big fan of shooting, and I think it's a great thing. Being responsible. I'm a big believer in the right to bear, because of the fact that if you're responsible and you're a law-abiding citizen, you should be able to have that right.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome thing Matt does, and I keep saying every year I'm going to make it out there one of those years. But so many friends of mine have been a part of it through the years at SIG and at Ruger and at different groups. So it's a lot of fun to see everybody kind of participate and be involved. And I think he's doing a great thing, and that's the platform he chooses to use, is shooting and being a part of that culture. And it's a lot of fun, and I think it's one of the unsung things in the shooting business, to be quite honest with you, that Matt does. And I think it's phenomenal, and to see you be a part of it obviously is really great. And he's really grown that thing out. I mean, it's really become something amazing, and to see it grow, I think what's he doing it in multiple states now? He's got multiple events, isn't he?
Yeah, he does a lot of different stuff. He's from Greenville, Ohio, or Greenville, Ohio. He's got a big camp out there, 300 acres. So he does some really cool stuff out there. And then we do the annual shootout, which is in New Hampshire. So, he does some really good stuff. We got more stuff to come this year. 2020 is going to be another great year. So I'm happy to be a part of it. I've been with him for 9 years now. It's really cool. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a phenomenal event again, and I'm going to definitely try to make it, if not this year, one of these years. I feel like I'm always moving or on to the next thing or traveling, and it's just always something that comes up. But I think you guys are going to crush it, and I think it's a phenomenal deal. You're going to have to start your own or do your own spinoff, because now that you're a multi-time champion in the plates, you're going to have to create your own tournament or something you can't beat or compete in.
I need to start competing against some real shooters, though. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, that's easy. Just go.
If you have Max,
get Max.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go against Max.
Yeah, he was on this. It's funny. I ask Max all the time. If you go back and you listen to that episode, I ask Max all the time how many rounds he's putting down range a month, and without flinching, he'll say 10,000.
I just wouldn't want to load 10,000 rounds.
Yeah, 10,000 rounds down range a month. He's pretty good. He's pretty damn good, I'd say. Between him, JJ, and Shane at Glock, some of these guys, they're just crushing it. They're doing phenomenal drills, and it gets better and better. I mean, he's got like 2 or 3 Guinness Book World Records too. He's out of this world.
Very, very impressive. The things that he can do, the high hand, just everything that he does is. It's very impressive. I've seen him do a bunch of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch those guys, and there's a lot of similarities to be drawn between the two sports in so many ways, because of the efficiency of movement and how important movements become in that world, and just seeing some of the drilling and some of the training Max is doing now. He was one of the first people to reach out to me when I said you'd be on, and he was like, oh man, I'd love to get more time with him. And when I connected him with Heath down in New Orleans, he was like, over the moon. So, he always gets excited because he's a huge football fan. He loves this.
Yeah, he's down there in New Orleans, so he's probably in the Blues right now.
Yeah.
The Saints just lost.
Yeah, he's a season ticket holder. I know that, and he's always at every game. And him and Heath managed to link up when he was down there for Drew's record-breaking night. So that's a lot of fun, just to connect people, and that's a passion of mine, and bringing guys together. So I have to ask before we wrap, did you what are you jonesing on next? Either a handgun, a rifle? Have you seen that new SIG bolt gun?
I have not. I know I'm not in the best state right now for this because you can't get them here. But I've been looking at an AR, but it wouldn't be in Massachusetts. Okay, it'd be like Louisiana, maybe where I have another residence where I could get something down there.
Well, you have to.
Yeah, you have to. 100% have to. Can't do it up here. So I was looking at it. I was going to get an AR. I don't know exactly what, but that'd probably be the next something fun to grab.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of cool selections out there with SHOT Show coming up. I'll be sure and have my eye out for you for what's coming up. So give me the last word on how the playoffs play out.
I was surprised. I'm 0 for 4 on these wild cards, so I lost every single freaking game, which so-called expert mind shouldn't do, but it is what it is. I still like moving forward. I was all in on the Saints. I thought they were going to have a great run here and get to the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, the best team on that specific day was not the Saints. And moving on to the Vikings. When I look at the NFC, I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think that they can get it done because they got a good defense, good running game. And then the AFC, it's going to come down to the Kansas City versus the Ravens in the championship game. So I'm going to go with the Ravens 49ers. That's going to be the Super Bowl. It's going to be a rematch of 2013? Was that it?
2013. Yeah, that's like it's like the forgotten Super Bowl. Yeah.
Or was that 2015? That was 2015, I think. Wasn't that? Because it was in New Orleans. Was that it?
Let me see.
I could be wrong, but there's the Ravens and the 49ers, and it was the Harbaugh brothers against each other.
It was 2015. 2015 was the Patriots and Seahawks. So it would have to be, let's see, 20. It would have 14, to be 2014. Right? Let me see. It's going to bother me. You could have been right initially. You said 2013. Yeah, Seattle. 2013 was Seattle and Denver. So let me see.
No, because it was Seattle twice back to back. So Seattle won, right? Then they were coming against us and lost. But it was in New Orleans. I thought it was for the 50th Super Bowl. I thought it was Super Bowl 50 because we played in 49 and 51. So it's Super Bowl 50. I thought was Ravens. I don't know. I could be wrong. It could be the 20 years of head trauma.
No. Let me see. The easiest way to search it is all Harbaugh Super Bowl. It's gonna bother me now. You're gonna leave me hanging. The all Harbaugh Super Bowl was Super Bowl. Okay, so here we go. It was 2013. You were right. You were right originally. 2013.
13.
It was 13. Yeah. So that was the all Harbaugh Super Bowl. You got the 34-31 ending with the Ravens coming on top. Yeah.
Yep. So I got a feeling the Ravens are going to get there, and unless they have a Saints moment where they don't come out and they don't look right offensively, sometimes that bye week can actually affect you in the wrong way. So you don't necessarily look the same because you kind of lost your momentum.
Right. Yeah. And you know what's crazy is that for whatever reason, that Super Bowl, that was when the lights went out too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the power issue.
Yeah, that was the crazy kind of jaded one. But that's really an interesting matchup to call back on because, it's amazing how quick the things can shift in the NFL, like you talked about earlier, right? And how quick, things can change because where are both the Harbaughs now,
Yeah. Well, one's still there and the other one he might be back in,
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, things move fast. So it's been, bro, it's amazing catching up with you. And I don't want to keep you. I know you're taking the little guy home and you got a lot going on. So it's been awesome kind of catching up with you and spending some time. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time. We'll wrap up. I'd love to get you on again if you ever make it out to Vegas or if you ever make it to SHOT or ever get a chance. If I get a chance to get it out there to Matt Light's deal, it'd be awesome to hook up.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to. SHOT Show would be insane. I'd love to go one year.
Anytime,
that's definitely on my bucket list.
Anytime you want a ticket, it's there waiting for you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me join, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. I appreciate you, brother.
All right. See ya.
We're out.
Bye.
All right.